Hi folks, welcome to the fourth part of the Awesome Notes Flutter application. In the previous video, we used the provider package for our state management, and also we added the ability to add new note. And in this video, we're going to add the ability to edit the note and also delete the note, as well as add the ability to order the notes by date modified or date created. So let's jump into it. And before doing the main thing of this video, I want to do some cleaning that is remaining from the previous video. So I'll go to Note button, and this Note button, we extracted this from New Tag dialog, and here's the new Note button, but we forgot to include the decorated box. So I'll select it until this place, and then I'll go to the Note button file and then paste that in here and just add a parenthesis in here, and now this button will include the shadow in its each version. And now this button is also used in the confirmation dialog in here, and I want to make two versions of this button, and the one is going to be outline version. If we go to the new note and then write something and go back, both of these are filled button and the same, but I want this button to be outlined. So to do that, I'll go to the new note button, and here I will introduce a boolean. Final bool is outlined, and I'll pass it in the constructor. This dot is outlined, and the default value is going to be false. And now in here, I want to change different things. First, the color of the shadow. If is outlined, then the color of the shadow is going to be of color primary, and otherwise the color is going to be black. And also is outlined, then the color of the background is going to be white, otherwise the primary, and the color of the foreground is outlined, then it is going to be primary, otherwise white. And also color of the border is outlined, then it is going to be primary, otherwise black. And I think we did it. And now I will go back to the confirmation dialog, and the button with label no, I will add is outlined is going to be true. And now if I hot reload this, then see the buttons are different and it looks better than before. And other thing is, I will go to the note metadata, and in here I will just refactor this to note metadata with small d. Okay, this is how this word is. It's not two words, it's just one word. And also I'll want to change the file name to metadata without the underscore. This is just a naming convention. Now to our main task. So first of all, I'll add a note. And now what I want to do is, by clicking this note card, I want to open the new or edit note page in which I want to edit the note. But it is giving me errors because the new or edit note page, here we use the new note controller, as you can see in here, and it is reading the new note controller. But if I go to the note card from which this is coming to the screen, we're not providing that new note controller change notifier. So to do that, I'll first wrap this with change notifier provider, and in the create it gets a context, but I don't need that, so I'll use underscore, and I'll return new note controller. And now I will hot reload this and go back, and then when I click on this again, the error will be gone. But here I want to populate these fields with the note that is coming. So to do that, first of all, I'll go to the new note controller and add the note itself as the property of the new note controller. So I'll say note, and it is going to be optional, because in some cases which it is a new note, then this note will not be available, so it is going to be null. But in the edit mode, it will be available. So I'll say underscore note, and then I will set this, I'll say note, and then note value, and then underscore note is going to be value, and then I'll notify the listeners. And also for getter, I'll say note get note, and I'll just return this note. And now I'll go to the note card, and in here, when I'm providing this new note controller, I'll use the cascade operator and just say note equals to note. So I'll just update the internal note by the note which is coming from here, so it will have the note. And now that this note is set, I want to also set the title and the content and also the tags to the values that are coming with this note. So to do that, I'll do these things inside this setter of the note. So I will say title is going to be underscore note dot title, and this title can be string. So I'll just add the null operator and say if it is null, if the left side is null, then I want to return an empty string. And in here, I'll just use the null check operator. And the same for the content, I'll say underscore note dot content. But as you can see, the content is for raw string, but the content JSON is for rich string. So we can get the content JSON, but we have to change it to the type of document because content is of type document. So how to do that? So I'll go to the pub.dev and then flutter-quill, and then to the input output. And in here, this part was for output, and we looked at this in the previous video, but for input, they're saying to open a flutter-quill editor with an existing JSON representation that you have previously stored. You can do something like this. So we have to use the JSON encode and encode the JSON that is coming, and then we can construct a document from that by using document.fromJSON. So I'll do the same. First of all, I will say document.fromJSON, and then in here I will say JSON decode, and then I will just bring this one in here and then remove this source, and now this will turn this JSON to an actual document. And for the tags, I'll use tags is going to be note.tags, and these tags can be null, so I'll say if they are null, then I want to use empty list. And actually we have to add it using the add all method, not replacing the entire object. So I will say tags.add all underscore note tags. And now that these values are set, we can hot reload this and go back and then click on this again and see if it works. Now, as we can see, the tags are working, but the title and the content are not populated. So to do that, I'll go to the new or edit note page, and first of all, we have to populate the title in this text field and also the content in the quill editor. So to do that, first of all, for the title, we have to introduce a new text editing controller. So I will say late final text editing controller title controller, and then in here I will say title controller is equal to text editing controller. That's one thing, and then I'll just get rid of this in the dispose. I'll say title controller dot dispose. That's one thing, and then I will just connect this with the text field in here, and I will just say controller is equal to title controller. And to be able to populate that with the note title, I'll use the text property in the text editing controller, and I'll say new note controller dot title, and this will automatically assign that title which is coming from new note controller to this text field controller. And then for the quill controller, we can do almost the same thing, but in here. So if widget is new note, we're not doing anything, but if it is a note that is going to be edited, so I will say quill controller dot document is going to be new note controller dot content. and this will do the job. So I will hot reload this, go back, and then when I click on this first note, then we have the first note and also the tags and also the content on place. And the only thing remaining is this last modified and created date string. So to do that, I'll go to note metadata. And in here, I'll find this and it is in here. So for this, we again can use the date format class from the previous video. But before that, I want to just organize this in a different file. So I'll go to the lib folder, and then in the core, I will create a new file called utils.dart. And in here, I'll introduce a string to short date, and it will get integer date time, and then return date format. And then I will just import that from the Intel package. So the purpose of this method is to be used in the note card. In the note card, we used it last time in here. So I will just copy this code or even cut it and then paste it in here. And now, instead of node.date created, I will say date time. And now I will use the toShort date instead of the previous one. And I'll just pass the node.date modified. And I will import this and everything will be good. And the same thing I want to create for this date representation. So I'll just copy this and then name it to toLongDate. And again, we use the 2 digits day, so DD is fine, and then a full name month. So how is that represented? So we'll go to date format documentation, and in here, as we can see, the month is represented by 4 M's. So I'll say MMM, and then the year, so I'll remove the comma, and then I'll use a comma, and then for the hour, so for our 24 format, we use the capitalized H, but for 12-hour mode, we use the J as they state, but this is in fact not J, but small h. So I'll say 2H because we want it in 2 digits format, and then a colon, and then for minute, it is small m. So I'll again use 2 M's, and then a space, and then for AM PM, we can use the A. It is AM PM marker, so I'll say A. And now I will use this toLongDate and go to the note metadata and just replace it in here. And then I will just import this first of all, and then we have to pass the note date modified in here, but we don't have a note in the note metadata. So first we have to define a note. So I will say final note, and this can be null because in the new note we don't have a note, so I'll just make it nullable and say note. And then I'll say required this dot note, and I'll import this. And now I will say note dot date modified. Okay, it is giving me error because it is widget.note. So I will say widget.note, and then we have to remove this const, and then we have to use the null check operator in here too because we're sure that the note is coming. And then the same thing, I'll copy this one and then just paste it in here, and instead of date modified, I will say date created. Now this part is done. So one thing that we can do, instead of this boolean is new note, now if note is null, it is automatically a new note. So we can remove this is new note, and instead of if not widget dot is new note means if there is a note, so we can like simply say if widget dot note is not equal to null, and then I will just add the consts, and then we have to solve these errors. And in the note metadata, instead of is new note, we have to pass the note, and that is going to be new note controller dot note. And now we are going to hot reload this and see it is looking good. Amazing. So now that we have everything in place, that's time to update a note. So first of all, I want to put some rules for updating a note. So if there is nothing changed in the note title or in the tags or in the content, then there is no need to update a note. So I'll just disable this button. So to do that, I'll go to the new note controller and then come to can save note. In here, this was used for a new note. So for a new note, we can save a note if there is either a title or content, but this is not enough for the edit mode. So I will just say if note equals to null, then do the following thing, but otherwise, for now, I'll just return false, and it will write the logic in here. So it means if the note is new note, means we're creating a new note, then this logic applies, otherwise we have to create a new logic. So we'll use this note equals to null or not equals to null so often, so I'll just declare a getter for that. So I'll say bool get is new note, and that is going to be underscore note equals to null. Okay, and now we will just say if is new note. Amazing. And now for the edit mode, I will say we can save this note if either this title is not equal to the title that is coming with note, or the content is not equal to the content that is coming with the note, and also the tags are not equal to the tags that are coming with the note. So the new title is the title that we will edit. For example, in this case, if I write something in here, this is going to be the new title, but the title that is coming with the note is in the note dot title. So I will say new title is not equal to note dot title. That's one thing. Or for the content, we cannot say that new content is not equal to note dot content. This is not right. Why? Because, this content, new content, is keeping track of the plain text, not the rich text. So for example, if the user just change the property, for example, they make it bold, then this means that the content is edited. But by using this logic, it will not make that possible, because this is keeping track of the raw string. So this string with bold is the same as without bold. So for the rich text, we have to instead use the content JSON, because the content JSON is responsible for the rich text property. So to do that, I will just say final new content JSON is going to be JSON encode content dot to delta dot to JSON. And now this is keeping track of the rich text of the content. And now we can simply compare that new content JSON is not equal to note.content JSON. And also, if tags are not equal to note.tags, okay? But this will also not work, because using the equality operator on list just looks for the object reference, not for the actual elements. So to look for the equality of the list element by element, we have to use the list equals method, which is coming from foundation, and it takes two lists. So as the first list, I'll say tags, and as the second, I'll say note.tags. And we can safely remove this code, and we will add not equals, okay? And now if I hot reload this and then come back, as you can see now, this is not active because we cannot update this node because nothing has changed. But as soon as I change something, for example, I change something in the note by, for example, adding something, then we can update the note. And also the same thing applies for the tags. If I remove the tag, then we can update the note. But if I add it again, then it is the same thing as before. And the same for the content. Now if I just update the content by updating its style, again, we can update the note. And this is good. Now, there still is a small issue with this. For example, if I go back and then come again, and then, for example, I edit the note so that I remove the content, remove the tags, and also remove the title, I still can update the note, and it will first of all create a new note, which will solve this in a bit. But the issue that I'm talking about is it is updating the note to an empty note, which we don't want to do so. So to prevent this from happening, we have to also check for this condition too in here. So I'll copy it, and then I will just group these conditions in one condition, and then I will say one of these, okay, one of these conditions, and also these two conditions, okay. So now if I hot reload this and go to the first note, and then now if I do the same as I did before, remove the content, remove the tags, and also remove the title, then it will just make it disabled because we cannot update a note to an empty note. And this is how you should be considering each case. And now that this is done, we can turn this code to a more concise format. Okay, this is fine. Okay, and this may look more intuitive to you, but a better way would be to introduce a boolean, and I will say can save, and then in the first place it is going to be the first condition that is used both in this part and also in this part. And now I will just say if not is new note, then also add this condition to it, okay, because it is the same thing. We are just appending an end in here. So I will say can save equals to can save, and I'll just copy these conditions, okay, from here to here. And then the new content JSON is giving me error, and I'll just copy this and bring it in here. And now we can remove this one, and it is going to be the same thing. And then finally we can return the can save variable. So now if I hot reload this again and come again, okay, we cannot save the note, but if I remove a tag, we can save the note. And then if I remove the content as well as the title, then we cannot save the note. Amazing. And we can still make this more compact by using the compound equality operator. So I'll just add an and in here, and then I can safely remove these two, and then as well as these two parentheses, and it'll be the same as before. Now to edit a note, we are calling each time the save note, and at the end it is adding the new note, but we don't want to add the new note every time. So first of all, we have to make sure that the newly created note is perfect. So the title is going to be the new title, and this is okay. The content is going to be new content, and it is okay. And the content JSON is okay, but the date created is not okay at the edit note case, because when we want to edit a note, the date created should be the same as before. So I will say is new note, then now is good, but otherwise give me the note dot date created, okay? Because in this case we are updating a note, and the date modified is fine and the tags are fine, and this part is good. Now to update a note, first of all I will say final note provider is going to be context.read, and then I'll just say notes provider, and then I'll say notes provider, okay. And now I will say is new note, then add the new note, but otherwise notes provider dot update note, and we don't have the update note, so we'll go in the notes provider and just add the update note method. So void update note, and in here I want to replace the previous note with the note that is coming, okay, the new note. So first of all I have to find the index for the note. So I'll say notes dot index where and I'll say element dot date created is equal to note dot date created. So why we use the date created? Because if we go to the note object, the only thing that is the same between the previous note and its updated version is the date created. So we use the date created to find the place of that note in this notes list, and then once it's found, I'll say final index is going to be index, and then I will say notes index is going to be the new note that is coming, and then I will just simply notify the listeners. And then when I go back to the new note controller, the error will be gone. And now if we hot reload this and then go back and come again, and now if I just add something and also change the styling and then click on this, then it will update the note. Okay, so here we can see that the content is updated, and if we click, then the style is also updated. And now the updating part is almost complete, but one thing is remaining, and that is we want the user to be able to update the tag too by clicking the tag. So to do that, I'll go to the note tag, and besides of the unclosed void callback, I want to add a final void callback that is going to be nullable on tap, and I'll provide it in the constructor. And now I will just wrap the whole container with a gesture detector and assign the on tap that is coming from the constructor. And now I'll go to the note metadata where the tags are used. So they're used in here. I will add another method on tap, and I want to open the new tag dialog in here too. So we can copy this code, but first of all, I want to declare this in a different file. So I'll go to the core and then create a new file called dialogs.dart, and in here I will say show new tag dialog, and then I will return this dialog. Okay, and I will import the Flutter material, and also I have to pass the context. So I will say build context and make it required, and also I have to import the files for dialog card and new tag dialog. And now we're fine, but I want to just make the return type to future of string nullable string. And now we can simply use the show new tag dialog instead of all this code, and just pass the context to it and also import it from the dialogs file. Okay, now this seems much more simpler and tidier, so we can use it as before, and I will say show new tag dialog. And now if I hot reload this and click on the tag, then it will open a new dialog but with empty string. So I want to populate that tag text in here. So to do that, I will again go to the new tag dialog widget, and I will pass a string in here. So I'll say final string, and that is going to be nullable, and say tag. And now I will say this dot tag, and as we did before, we say text is going to be widget dot tag. And now I will go to the dialogs page and give this a tag. So I have to pass a string in here too. So I will say string, that is going to be nullable, and I'll call it tag. Now I have to pass this in here, and I'll say tag. And now I'll go to the note metadata, and in here I will just pass that tag, and that tag is going to be stored in the tags index. And now if I hot reload this and click on this again, then we are having that tag, and we can edit this and add it again. Now the updating is not working, and we'll come to that sooner, but first of all I want to extract that tag again as before. I'll say final string, and that is going to be nullable, and I'll say tag is going to be await. I want to await for this title until it gives me a value, and then I will say if tag is not equal to null, means that the user didn't tap outside of the tag dialog, and also I want to update the tag only if they're different with the previous tag. So I will also add, and this tag that is coming is not equal to the tag that is available already, which is tags index. And now I want to update this tag. So how to update this tag was use the new node controller.update tag. And now the update tag is not defined in the new node controller. So I will go there, and we have the remove tag, but I also want to add the update tag. And for updating a tag, first we need the tag itself. So I will say string tag, and then we need the index, integer index. And now we can simply say tags index is going to be tag, and then just notify the listeners. And now we can say update tag, and the tag is going to be the tag. Okay, and then the index is going to be simply the index. Now if I hot reload this again and then click on the tag and just add something and add it, then this will be updated. Amazing. Now the updating of a node is complete. So first of all, I will just commit this code and just say commit update node implemented. And now how do we delete a node? So I want to delete a node by clicking this little icon, and I want to open a confirmation dialog. If the user says yes, then I want to delete this node. So to do that, I will go to the node card, and I'll find the icon, and that is in here. So I will add a gesture detector, and on the on tab I want to use the context.read nodes provider, and then I will say delete tag, and we haven't defined that yet. So I'll go to the nodes provider, and we have the add node, update node. The only thing remaining is void delete node. So I will say node, and then I will say nodes.remove the node, and then notify the listeners. So we are deleting the node, not tag. So I'll say delete node, and then I'll pass the node which is available from the constructor. And now this will directly delete the node, but I don't want to delete the node directly, but I want the user to decide by clicking the yes or no. So to bring the confirmation dialog, we will go to the new or edit node page, and then where did we use the confirmation dialog? So here it is. This is the confirmation dialog. So I'll copy this and go to the dialogs page, and I want to introduce a new method, show confirmation dialog, and I'll just pass the build context, and then I'll just return that dialog, and I will import the file, and now this returns a boolean. So I will say future of boolean. And now we can use the show confirmation dialog in here, and just pass the context is going to be context, and I will just import this. And the same thing can be used in the delete part. So I'll go to the note card, and in here, first of all, I'll say show confirmation dialog, and then this will open the confirmation dialog, and I will say final should delete, and I will await to this dialog until it gives me a response to say. So let's just hot reload this, and now when I click on this button, it'll show me this dialog. So if I click outside of this, means that this should delete value was null, and if I click on the no, then it will return the false. Okay, and it is deleting the code in all cases because we're not checking for the case. So to check for each case, so first of all, I will say if this was null, then take that as a false, means that the user don't want to delete the note. And now I will say if should delete, means if this was equal to true, then delete the note. Otherwise, do not delete the note. And also, this gives me the build context used across async gaps. Again, the solution will be to add an end and say context.mounted. Okay, and now if I hot reload this and then add some notes, for example, this one, and then again, just first note and first content, and then save that. And now if I click on the delete button and I click outside, then nothing happens. If I click on the no, nothing happens. But if I click on the yes, then the note is deleted. Amazing, the delete is also working fine. So again, go and commit this code. And now we want to also make these options working, okay? We want to sort the note based on the date modified or date created. So to do that, I'll go to the main page and see how it is working now. And now it is showing a large part of code, and we still use the sysdate. Okay, I forgot this to change it to provider. So first of all, let's change this to provider. And before that, I will extract all of this padding widget, okay, to a new widget. So I will extract this widget, and this is not working because of some references to some of the properties in here. So I will do it manually. So I will copy it until here, and then I'll go to the widgets and create a new file called view options.dart, and I'll create a stateless widget called view options and then paste that code. And now I'll just quickly import the necessary files and libraries. And now to remove these problems, okay, the is descending and all of these things, I will just turn this to a stateful widget and then go to the main page, and then I'll remove this one and change it to view options, and I'll just copy these and bring them in here. Okay, and now I'll just import the colors file, and now we are good to go. So now to change this to provider, first of all, I'll go to notes provider. Okay, and in here I will just paste these properties again in here too. And now let's start with the drop-down options. Okay, now we use a list of string, but a better way would be to use enums, okay, because those will be more solid, because these strings are prone to errors. Okay, so to define the enum, I will say enum, and I will say order option. Okay, and then the first one is going to be date modified and then date created. And now I can simply remove this one, and now the drop-down value is going to be order option dot date modified, and then I will just replace the string with order option and then remove the late, and let's just rename drop-down value to order by, and let's make it private, and then set the order by and give it a order option value, and then order by is going to be value, and then notify the listeners. Okay, and then to get this, I'll say order option get order by, and let's do the same thing for is descending and is grid. Okay, Amazing. And now we can use these new properties of the notes provider in the view option. So I will wrap the padding with consumer of notes provider, and I will just import the consumer, and then the builder will take a context and also notes provider and the child, and I will return the padding from that. And now I want to delete this to see where they're used. So first of all, here, so I'll just copy this one and then replace these with the notes provider properties. So I'll paste it and then add a dot, and now some errors are still remaining, so the drop down value is now order by, and then instead of drop down button of type string, now we are using the order option. And now as the items, so notes provider dot drop down button options, we will say order options dot values. Okay, and then the text e is going to be e dot name, because each enum has a property name which represents the value of the enum as string. And now if e is equal to note provider dot order by, and also in here instead of notes provider dot drop down button options, I will say order option dot values, and e dot name, and also notes provider dot order by is equal to new value. And now this part is done, and now we can go to the main page and also remove this, and it is giving me error in here because instead of isGrid we can now use notes provider dot isGrid. Okay, and also add the consts. And now I will hot reload this and see if it is working as before. The buttons are working, and also we can change these options, but the only problem is that now the date modified string is not looking good. It is the same as defined in here. Okay, so to change the string representation of these enums, we have to use another property and the enum, and I will say string get name. Okay, and then I will return and switch the order option. Okay, and then I will say in the case of order option dot date modified, return the string and say date modified, and then I think we have to remove the case, and then I will say in the case of order option dot date created, return the string saying date created. And I think we have to remove these things. Okay, like this. And date modified, we'll just change this to modified date, and also created date. And now if I hot reload on this, then these strings are changed. So what we did is we overrode the name property of the enum and changed the string representation. And now I want to move this order option to a new file and create a new folder even, and I will say enums, and inside that folder I want to create a file called order option.dart and just paste that, and then I'll go to the notes provider and then import this file. And also we have to go here and import it in here too. Now that we are fully converted to provider, now we have to make this work to actually order the notes by date modified and date created. So to do that, I'll go to notes provider. Here we are returning the notes. Okay, so now I want to order these notes. So how to sort the notes? We have to call the dot sort method on this list, and we can use the cascade operator. And now what the sort function does is it sorts the list according to the incoming function. So it takes two notes and then compare them and then return an integer. So if it is 0, if the return integer is 0, it means that the two notes are equal. And if it is a negative number, it means that the first note is less than the second note. And if it is a positive number, that means that the first note is greater than the second note. So we'll use this compare function and then return the integer. So it takes a function with note 1 and note 2, and then it return an integer. Let's say we are returning 0. So now to compare these two notes, first of all, I want to compare it with date modified in the first place. So I will say note1 dot date modified, okay, dot compare to, this is the function that is coming with integer, so compare to note2 dot date modified. Okay, so I've go to the compare to documentation, says that compare this to other, so returns a negative number if this, okay, is less than the other, 0 if they're equal, and a positive number if this is greater than the other. So now in this case, these notes will be sorted ascending, so means that the oldest note will come to the top and the latest note will come to the bottom. So to show you, I will just hot reload this, and then I have to do hot restart to remove this error. And now I'll go to the new note page and create a note. So I'll just say first note, and then save this, and then say second note and save it, and then say third note and save it. Now as you can see that the new notes are coming to the bottom. So for example, if I update the second note, okay, and then update it, then it is coming to the bottom. But we don't want this, we want to make it to the top. So to do that, we have to just change the note 1, okay, to 2, and then this note 2 to 1, and then it'll do the job. So if I hot reload this, then see the second is coming to the top. Amazing. Now we can move this function to a new function to make this code more readable. So if I go to the sort, then this is the definition of the function. So I just can copy this and then paste it in here, and then just remove this one and also remove this one, and I will say note 1 and then again note 2, and I'll call it compare and bring it in here, and I will just return now this code. So I will say return this code, and now instead of all this code, I will just say compare, and I can make it a private function, so we are not using this outside of this class. And now it is looking neater than before. Now we can add more things to this function. So first of all, I will say if order by is equal to order option dot date modify, then do this thing, okay? And otherwise I will copy this code and then bring it in here, and then instead of date modified, I will change this to date created. Now this will work both in the date modified and date created part. So for example, if I hot reload this, now this is looking like this second, third, first, because this second note is lately updated, and if I change this to date created, now it is changing its positions. Now the third note is the latest created. Now this is working, and the only thing that I want to work is this option. I want to reverse this. Now it is the latest, and if I press on this, I want this to show the oldest first. So to do that, I will add two conditions in here too, okay? So I will say if order by is equal to order option dot date modified, then do this thing, and inside this I want to add another tertiary operator and say if is descending, then do this part. Otherwise, I want to copy this code and then paste it in here, and then change note 2 to note 1 in here and note 1 to note 2 in here. And I will also to do the same thing in here, and I will say is descending, run this code. Otherwise, run this code but with note 2 to note 1 and note 1 to note 2. And now if I hot reload this, now as you can see that these positions are changed. The third node is not coming to the end. And now if I click on this again, and then it'll change. And the same with the date updated. The second node is the latest, but the first node is the oldest. Amazing. So now I will just commit this code and say nodes can be ordered. Now, the last thing that I want to do for this video is to add the capability of searching the node, okay? So, like, for example, if I write like node, then I want to return all the nodes that their title contains the node, their content contains the node, or their tags contains the node, okay? So that will be a full search capability. So to do that, again, I'll go to the nodes provider, and at the end, let's add another property for search term, and I'll call it string search term. And initially, it is going to be an empty string. To set the search term, I'll say set search term string value, then search term is going to be value, and then notify the listeners. And to get it, I'll say string search term and then return the search term. Now, to update this search term, I'll go to the main page, and then I'll find the search text field. So here it is, search field, and I'll go there, and then I want to set the on changed, and this is coming with a new value. And now I will call the context.read, and I will say nodes provider, and then I have to first import the provider package, and then I will say search term is going to be equal to new value. Now that the search term is enabled, I want to return only the nodes containing the search term. So I will go to here where I return the nodes, and now we can call a function on the nodes saying where, and now this will, as the documentation says, creates a new lazy iterable with elements that satisfies the predicate test. So in the test, we have to specify what is the condition that we want to return a node from all of the nodes. So for example, element dot title dot contains search term. Okay, this is a very simple condition that I'm saying if the title contains the search term, then return me the node. But this is more complex than this, okay? But first of all, I want to extract this function to a new function, and this is called test. So we'll create a new function. So I will say bool underscore test, because we're going to use it just in here, and then it is coming with a note, and now we can return our condition. So I will say return true for now. Now we can simply replace all of this code with our test method. Amazing. So now, which node do you want to return? So first of all, I will extract the search term. So I will say final term is going to be search term, and I want to make it to lowercase so that we are searching both in the lowercase and uppercase, and then dot trim it. This is one thing. And now final title, okay, the node title I want to get, so I'll say equals to node dot title, and this title can be null, so I will say if it is a null, then just return me an empty string. And I want to call the to lowercase on this too, and let me add the null check operator. And for the content, I'll say final content is going to be node dot content and dot to lowercase, but if the content is not available, then I just want an empty string. And the same for the tags. I will say final tags is going to be node dot tags. If they are not available, then just empty string. And now I want to turn the tags to lowercase, all of the tags. So to do that, I will just say dot map and map each element to e dot lowercase, so it will turn each element to a lowercase. Now that I have all of these things, I can simply say title dot contains term or content dot contains term or tags dot contains term. And in here I will just say I want to use this where function if the search term is available, not in each case. So I will just say if search term dot is empty, then I just want the notes, otherwise I want the filtered notes. Amazing. And now I'll just clear this and then hot reload. And now if I write note, then it will just return the notes with the text note. Okay, in this case they're available in the content. Okay, if I write something like something not available, then it will be removed. And now there are different bugs in here, because now that there's nothing available according to the search term, then this page is gone entirely. But I didn't want this, so to do that I'll go to the main page. And now I'll say if notes is empty, then show the new notes. And also if notes provider dot search term dot is empty, okay, means that we're not searching for anything, then show the no notes, otherwise show these widgets. So in here I will say show the search field in each case, okay, but if notes dot is not empty, then show these two widgets. So if there are notes available, then show the notes, otherwise return an expanded widget, and as the child just say no notes found for your search query. And now if I hot reload this again, then the page is shown and saying that no notes found in your search query. And I want to make this to the center, so I'll wrap this with center, and also I want to align this to text align.center. So let me do a hot restart and see how this works. So I'll go to the new note page and create, let's say, first note, and I'll say note content, and then just add tag and click the OK, and then create another note saying another note, and then again third note, and just add the tag, create the note, and just do one more final note, and in tags I'll say this tag is long, and now I'll click OK. And now if I start typing and say tag, just the notes with tags are returned. And now if I clean this, all of the notes are returned. And also, as you can see, this note was not returned, although it contained the tag text in the tag. So to solve this problem, to also search for the tag inside of the tag text, so we go to the notes provider, and in here we just looked for the tags list containing the term, okay, not for the actual tag also containing the text. So for that I want to deeply search for this, so I will create an extension on the list of string. So I will call it extension list deep contains on list of string. And in here I want to introduce a method, and it will return a bool deep contains, and I'll give it a string term, and now I will return this dot contains the term, or this dot any element dot contains the term. And now we can safely remove this because the extension is like we are in the list class, okay, so we can remove the unnecessary this. And now this will search deeply in the elements of the list too. So now instead of the tags we can say tags dot deep contains. And now this tags is actually an iterable of string, So to change it to a list, I'll just call the dot to list on the map, and now the error is gone. So now if I hot reload this again and start typing tag, now see this note is also returned, and let's say tag is, and now see just this note is returned because this tag contains the tag is text. Amazing. Now we can safely move this to a new file. So I'll go to the core folder and create a new file called extensions.dart. Just put this in here. And now go to the note provider and import the file. Now the search is almost done, but I want to add a button in here for clearing the search term. So to do that, I'll go to search field, and in here I want to add the suffix icon widget too. So I will just duplicate this and call this suffix icon, and I will just add the X mark circle, okay, circle X mark, and also I want to add the suffix icon constraints the same as the prefix icon constraints. And now if I hot reload this, then there should be a button in here. Okay, so we have the button, and I think we have to remove the size to make it bigger. Amazing. And now by clicking this button, I want to clear this search text. So to do that, I will just add a gesture detector in here, and the on tap is going to call the context.read, and I'll say notes provider, and then the search term is going to be empty. So let's see if this works. So when I click on this, then the search term is gone, but not in the text field. So to also remove it from the text field, we have to first change this to a stateful widget, and then I will introduce a late final text editing controller and call it search controller. And then in the init state, I want to initialize it, search controller equals to text editing controller. And now in the dispose method, I want to get rid of that, and I'll say search controller dot dispose. And now I will just assign it to the controller search controller. And now instead of the unchanged, we can use it in here and add the listener in here, and I'll say add listener, and I'll just cut it from here and then bring it in here, and the new file is going to be now search controller dot text. So we can remove this, and now we're using the notes provider in two places, so we can introduce it in here, late final notes provider, and I will initialize it in here. Notes provider is going to be context dot read. Okay, and now we can just say notes provider dot search term, and also in here notes provider dot search term is equal to an empty, but instead we'll use search controller dot clear. This will both clear this text and also it'll clear the notes provider search term. So now if I hot reload this, and now if I write something, for example tag is, and then click on this, then both of them will be removed. And the final thing I want to do is, if we look at this icon, I don't want to show it if there is nothing written in here. So for that, I will use just a simple widget in the suffix icon. So we can do two things. We can use the selector widget and then listen for the search term from the new note controller, and if that is empty, then we can show a sized box, and if it is not empty, we can show this icon. But I want to show you something different, and that is going to be listenable builder. Then we can directly listen to this search controller, text editing controller. Okay, so I will go to suffix icon and say listenable builder, and the listenable is going to be search controller, and change notifier is also a listenable, so they're working fine with each other. And as the builder, we can pass a context and a widget, and then we can say if search controller dot text dot is not empty, then we can show this gesture detector. Otherwise, a sized box dot shrink. So now if I hot reload this, then this will be gone. And now if I start typing something, then this will come, and then if I click on this, it will be removed. And we can make this more performant by bringing this to the child and then assigning it as the widget. So now this will be more performant, because on each rebuilding of this listenable builder, then this button will not be rebuilt, because we actually don't need that to be rebuilt. We just need to show it or not show it. Okay, so for that we use the child, and this child is coming as the widget in here. We can even call this clear button. Okay, now it is more readable. And now I will just add the costs. And that is it. We have done all of the things that we said in the start of the video. So we are almost done with the note creating and updating and deleting and searching and ordering of the note. And in the next video, we're going to add the firebase to our application. So we are then able to sync our notes with firebase storage, so we don't lose the notes. Now, if I even, do a hot restart, then as you can expect, all the notes are gone. Okay, and this is a very bad user experience. No one will usually our application if it is not persisting and saving the notes. So in the next video, we'll add the firebase so our notes are saved to our local storage and also to the cloud storage, so we can access that each time we want. Okay, so thank you very much for watching the series till now. Stick to the series and you'll learn more important things in the upcoming videos. So have a good time till then. See you soon.